excited to share today's video with you as I start my day lakeside in the Lake District with the first shot of the day.
Good morning and welcome to today's video, and I find myself down at the water's edge. Now, after my trip to Holmfell last week, I was able to stay overnight and I managed to find a body of water. Now, I did learn a lesson, is to try and make sure you know where you're going in the morning, because I didn't have a clue. It was very late by the time I'd found a park up and what have you. But anyway, I saw the body of water and I thought, well, we'll start here. And I'm going to go for the classic shot, stones in the water, basically. So I've framed up these three rocks in the water, and there's a lot of high level mist and stuff going on in the background, and I think that'll be a fantastic shot to start the day. Well, I've just moved about 10 foot away from that first image that I showed you just now. Just working my way across the along the coastline a little bit, really, just to see what we got. I mean, we've got no particular colour at the moment in the sky, and very noisy geese. But there's no sort of separation and stuff going on at the moment with the fog and what have you, so everything's a bit flat. So I thought I'd do with this composition really is just make use of these boughs and stuff that are just hanging down into the frame. We've got a rock there just as a bit of foreground interest, along with the reeds and what have you. Again, typical standard shot, but just something just to get you going first thing in the morning, isn't it, really? But yeah, there's some new growth coming on these twigs and branches. But yeah, the fog is still quite high up at the moment, so I don't know how long it's going to last, and there's no colour at the minute because there's just no sun. Whether we're going to get a sunrise or not, I've got no idea really, to be honest with you, because I don't know, I can't really sort of work out how high the fog is, or the mist, and whether that's going to cut any sunlight out. But I'll stick the shot up for you now, and it's just another one in the bag for today.
Wait a minute. This is starting to sound like a Disney film. Oh, come on lads, step in time.
Okay, another quick change. I've come round probably 20 minutes from where the last image was taken, and again, still nothing going on. It's later on in the morning now, but I think it's getting on for about 9 o'clock. And but there's just nothing going on in the sky. Rain is forecast, so I'm just running around as fast as I can, trying to get as many images from different locations as I can. So some of these locations are quite popular because they're quite easy to get to. But I've only got probably another hour or two, and then I've got to start heading home. Okay, so what I've done, just as a bit of an experiment really, because the sky is so bright and grey, and so is the reflection, the branch is doing its job in making the sky look a little bit more interesting within the composition. There's not a lot I can do about that big diamond in the middle of the grey reflection of the sky. So I've popped the polarizer on, and what that's doing is, because the angle of the polarization changes right the way through the scene, it's very dark at the beginning, but it still goes to the light. Now, as you know, the lightest part of the image usually grabs your attention, so what I'm hoping is that the gradient of the polarization of the water going out into the distance will lead your eye into the picture and make it pleasing. Let's hope so, eh? Okay, so having moved around this area, I've come to a composition which I didn't think I had at the beginning, to be honest with you. What I've done is I've still kept the tree, and the tree is actually hiding the van, because I parked over there by the side of the road. It's in the shot. So if I'm moving my camera around, I've been able to hide it behind the tree. So that's a bit sneaky, but also because there's a lot of pine trees on the left hand side that are very, very dark, I've tried to include some of this very light, these light leaves of this very young pine tree, just to give it a bit of light to the left hand side of the image. Now, with this ongoing problem with these triangles of grey, I've moved this around a little bit, so we've got the branch of the tree giving some interest to the sky, but also with the V reflection, there's a little bit of a headland that's pointing out to the centre where it all meets in the middle, and so I'm able to sort of like fill that gap, that V reflection, with the headland of the shoreline of the lake. Now, with the gradation, I'm sure that's a word, with the gradation of the polarizer, again, it's very, very dark at the beginning, but then obviously the way it all sort of changes, or the light is, the angle of the light hitting the polarizing filter, it starts lightening up as it gets to the middle, again, forcing your eye down into the image. Well, it makes sense to me, so I'll pop the images up for you now. Right, I've just moved myself around to the left-hand side of that tree. Still taking into consideration all the reflections and what have you, but I found this stump. So what I've done is I've put the polarizer on. Now, as you can see, I've put the camera down quite low. So what I want to try and do is get the reflections of all the dead leaves and stuff below the surface of the water around the stump, and the reeds and stuff are leading off to that kind of a point in the middle of the image, and I've kind of lined everything up straight down the middle. I don't know, it looks quite nice on there, and again you've got that, I don't know what you would call it, is it a diffraction or something like that, where you've got that gradient or the gradation of the way the angle of the light is hitting the polarizer. Obviously the polarizer is doing its work on the foreground, but as the angle gets shallower and shallower, so it loses the polarization, you start getting the reflections back. I think it looks quite nice. Now, I've made sure that the histogram isn't hitting the far right hand side, which means all the highlights are losing all the information. So I've tried to keep the histogram just to the left of that, trying to even everything out. But because there's so much dynamic range, I've got a couple of peaks going on in the centre of the histogram. So hopefully all the information has been saved in there, because there are a few sort of grey, you know, it's just high level rain clouds. There's a bit of shading going on up there, put it that way. So I'm hoping we might be able to get that back and reclaim some of that back in post. So I'll pop that up for you now. This might be the last image from here, and there's a fish about that size just jumping out of the lake. How cool. But yeah, and I can hear a woodpecker behind me, so I might spend 10 minutes to see if I can get a shot of him. He's up in one of these trees just up behind. So I think that'll be a bit of an adventure for the next 10 minutes.
Well, no woodpecker this time, I'm afraid, but it was time to get back. If you've liked any of the images that you've seen today, if you could leave a like, a subscribe, or maybe even a comment, that'd be fantastic. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.